Hello, hi, and welcome to another episode of The Emma Gunn Show and a midweek instalment of Bullet Points. This is the midweek episode where we catch up with each other. And thank you so much for deciding to spend your time with me. I appreciate it so much. So let's talk about something that happened this week. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you'll know that there was a bit of a run up to this, but I decided to share a what I eat in a day video diary on Instagram. I have always said, and I know I'm repeating myself here, but for anyone who might not be up to speed, I've always said that I would not participate in this kind of thing because I think that often the ones that I see are unrealistic. They are perhaps a sort of a concoction of foods that end up being massively expensive, and I'm not really sure what purpose they serve. And so I've always stayed clear of it. And I also think, especially as someone who has had eating issues and is in recovery from binge eating disorder, I don't want to participate or add to any more noise that might be difficult for others and cause them problems. But as a few people have pointed out, or what about the people it might help? Or what about the lens you might be putting onto a particular type of eating? Sorry, I had a coughing fit. And so I decided to do a what I eat in a day. And I knew that what happened would happen. But I actually wanted to share with you the experience of sharing a what I eat in a day, because I think it's probably quite an interesting perspective. And I haven't heard anyone else share this. So right now I am, as I have stated, in recovery, or I no longer binge eat or overeat in the way that I used to. I don't know if it was a defined binge eating disorder, but it was definitely something resembling close to, you get the idea. And it has been a lot of hard work to untangle a lot of very sort of poor habits and behaviours around food. I've talked about them at length. I won't go into them here because it's bullet points. It's a brief one. But that doesn't mean that every day looks the same. And I am a woman who is governed by lots of things, hormones included, and hormones can dictate how my appetite shows up. And on the day that I filmed, which just so happened to be, because of the conversations I've been having with you, it just so happened to be that I was like, oh, I'll do that on that day because I know I'm working from home. I'll know I'll have the bandwidth. And seeing as it's my first one, I won't be out and about. It's basically like a control environment, essentially. So I was like, that's the day that I'll do it. But to be completely transparent with you, I actually was having one of those days when I was busy, had a lot on my plate in a good way, and I wasn't really thinking about food. That is not the norm. The other thing is that, not that that's not the norm, but that's not consistent. The other thing that I think I hadn't appreciated, but it's so obvious when you think about it, is the accountability that comes hand in hand with sharing what you're eating. And there was a definite, to know that I'm like, oh, I'm going to put the camera there, I'm going to put the tripod there, I wasn't going into the fridge to look for things, because part of me was like, well, I would have to film that, and that would be a bit embarrassing. Not that I had those urges on that particular day, but it definitely sort of put a stop and a pause. And I've talked about this before, like take a beat before you eat. Actually, the process of filming what I was eating gave me a prolonged, a slightly more, I don't know, reflexive bait before I ate. And I definitely, that impacted the volume of food that I ate that day without a shadow of a doubt. So it's sort of to say that even from my side, I learned from the experience of doing how even though I did share the full picture, it also governed choices that I made, which meant that my day of eating probably looked different. Not much, in all honesty, really not much. I think the only thing I would have done differently had I not been filming was I would have had another snack at some point during the day, because my protein for the day ended up being 95 grams, roughly. And I always try to aim to get over 100. If I can get near 120, I'm very happy. So the only other thing I would have done was to eat that, but then that would have been for the sake of it. And the process that I was going through filming it was thinking, well, I'm not hungry. I would just be eating this to get my protein up. And I and then I sort of lost interest. So it's just to sort of give you the perspective of what it's like to create these things, in that actually it's distorted, absolutely 100%. And it was my first one, and first ones are a learning curve, aren't they? Or they're a learning experience. And I want to do another one, but I want it to be on a day when I'm struggling. I want it to be far more a far more honest account of what it's like when it's a struggle, because that particular day wasn't. And because of that, the inevitable happened in that 99% of the feedback was positive. But there was one person who DM'd me and asked me to take the content down. They had totted up what they thought my calorie count would be for the day and told me that that was not good and that I wasn't having enough carbohydrates and that it was irresponsible and that it wasn't serving anyone and I should take it down. I knew that would happen. And I think when you are someone like me who has always tried to not put out content that's particularly controversial, doesn't open too much of the door on your personal life because you don't want to invite criticism or unfortunately what comes hand in hand with that, which is that people are critical or they can be quite nasty or they share your content in a way that's not particularly flattering. It's basically bullying, but I don't want to get into that. But when I knew that by opening up a little bit more, that was going to happen, in the same way that the day before I had posted about my new jeans, and a couple of people had DM'd me saying you should have sized up. Your thighs look really big. I mean, I do have big thighs. I've got a disproportionately, if you like, a little bit like bigger bum and thighs, and I work out. You've seen how I work out. Like, that's just me. And maybe I shouldn't have bought the flares, but I wanted the flares. So anyway, that's beside the point. But when you open yourself up to, or when you share a certain type of content, you, as a content creator, as a journalist writing a first person piece, like the piece I wrote earlier this year for the Daily Mail about my binge eating disorder and recovery and my view on diet culture and body positivity, I knew I was inviting a certain type of response. And so I have always tried to keep my content quite of a tone that doesn't invite that. And also I have sort of hidden in the shadows a little bit, because podcasting, as I've said before, when you are podcasting, you've taken the time to either watch now on YouTube, hi YouTube watchers, or listen. And we are having a one-on-one conversation. It's you and me. And so there's a slightly there's more trust there. If you've taken the time, you probably like it and you're not hate listening to it. So all of that sort of stuff. But my initial response was, oh, maybe I should take it down. Maybe I should take down this content. Oh God, it's really unhelpful. And I went for a walk, and on my walk, I began to panic a little bit. And I thought, oh God, okay, well, is this going to be one of many? I wonder where this is going to get shared. And then I thought, okay, stop a second. Because somebody has said to you, I don't approve of your content. And maybe they've got valid reasons. I said in the caption that it wasn't indicative of a day where I was struggling. It was actually a day where I wasn't really thinking much about food, but I was very conscious to make sure that I was eating enough protein. Even Claire Coleman, who I sense checked it with, she said, I wish I could eat that healthily. So if Claire's saying that, I kind of know that actually I've probably not given the wrong impression, because I do eat like that. Like if I have a big weekend, that is the kind of day that I strive for, because it sort of makes me feel better after any excesses or anything like that. But it isn't a fair picture. That's not how I eat all the time. It's a good picture of how I used to try to eat when I was in a weight loss phase, but it is not a good picture of how I eat now in maintenance. Anyway, but I thought long and hard about the comment, and I read it again, and I replied, and I just said, thank you for your feedback. Taken all your points on board, but after careful conversation with my podcast listeners, I decided it was something I would share. And then I thought, hang on a minute, let's think about this. Someone's saying to you, I think you should take your content down. Maybe she's right. Maybe I should. But forget about the fact that this is me sharing my diary of what I ate in a day. Like, I am the editor of this content. I am the creator of this content. I come up with the ideas. I come up with the tone. I come up with the breadth of topics. It's all on me. So if I change my content for somebody, then I'm essentially giving them a role as an associate editor. They are now part of the editing process and the creation process, much in the same way that I have been somebody who has not created content in case of backlash or trolling or negative feedback, which in a way means that my content has been edited by a third party, if you like. If I had taken this content down because this one person, and it was only one person who was critical, everybody else was not, then I was thinking, well, the fair response would be to actually, and I'm not going to engage in a conversation with somebody like this, even though their email was reasoned, it wasn't spiteful or nasty. But I have to be a sort of like, if I was to get into a conversation, I'd say, okay, I'm going to take this content down, but by taking this content down, I'm obviously taking your input. I'm taking your input really seriously, and it's now governing the tone and feel and content I'm creating. Therefore, that almost means that you've got a role in this, in this, I don't know, the Emma Gunn show. You're an associate editor, or I don't know, you're a non-executive content creator. I don't know what it means. And so it's my first experience of someone saying, take that down. And when I thought about it, it's just kind of ridiculous. I know people say, if you don't like something, scroll on. I can tell you, I watch a lot of people on TikTok. It's where I think, unfortunately, I think TikTok is a place where a lot of people with quite serious mental health issues are enabled to display their mental health issues, and for other people's enjoyment. I think it is and I don't follow anyone in particular, and so I am fed a lot of accounts, and I feel so sorry for these people, because you can see that they're actually, I feel like there's one content creator in particular who I felt almost went mad this week. But that's a completely other point. That's a completely separate point. But I sometimes watch accounts on TikTok and I look at the content and I think, that's awful. That's terrible. And I don't particularly like the person. I think the way that they come across is really terrible. But I never comment. If I'm going to watch it to the end, that's my problem. And I never say, oi, you seem like a prat, because I just don't, what would that be? Anyway. But it leads me on to something else I just wanted to mention in what I hoped would be a brief episode, but obviously I've gone right in, is one thing I wish women would stop doing to women, because I've never been trolled by a man. The only thing a man has said to me in my DMs that has been annoying, there's one personal trainer who was like, I'm a healthy at every size fitness trainer. I'd love to train you. And I said, oh, that's really kind. I'm working with coaches. But just out of curiosity, what does healthy at every size mean? Because it was quite new. Anyway, he blocked me because and then he said that I was only platforming white female trainers. I was like, okay. Anyway, and then he blocked me and he got quite upset. But apart from that, I've never been trolled by a man. The only thing I get trolled by men about is whether I want to sit on their face or whether I want to see a picture of their penis. And the answer is always no. And that's it. It's the women, and this is what's so disappointing. It's always women on women hate, and I find it really disappointing. And I just want to say this because I sort of had a version of this in that email, but not really. But I see so many of my friends who have much bigger profiles and do go out on a limb with their content, and they do get a lot of backlash. And I definitely couldn't handle the response that a lot of my friends receive to their content. I just don't think I would get on very well with that. But what tends to happen is, if you've put it out there, you can't expect me not to respond. Or, well, if you say things like this, or if you share this part of your life, then you're going to have to expect people to comment. And I reject that so vehemently. It's basically women saying to women, she asked for it, which is what men have said to women for such a long time. Like, if a woman wears a short skirt, it doesn't mean she's inviting you to touch her. If a woman shares her what I eat in a day diary on Instagram, she's not inviting you to call her an anorexic in her DMs or to say that she's promoting anorexia in her DMs. She's offering a snapshot of her day and hoping that, well, in my case, finding my feet with that kind of content. And also showing what it looks like to pack in quite a lot of protein in the day. It was only shared with good intention. And I just wish women would stop doing what is basically, she asked for it, arguments to each other. If somebody shares something online and you don't like it or you're critical of it, just walk away. I understand the impulse. I understand the reflex to say something nasty. I get it, because we've all done it. We've all seen content creators and thought, what an absolute knob. But the sort of conscious decision to then say something, like the other day when I posted that picture of me on my Instagram stories and I was too short to be able to use the mirrors in a particular bathroom at Kettner's, And this woman just replied, dwarfed gnome. And it was like, what is wrong with you? And then when I posted her comment without identifying her, she was like, what the hell is wrong with you? Oh my God, I was only joking, you fool. And I'm like, that's just, I find that really sad. I feel very sad for that person. Anyway, that's just sort of my little rant. And I had one negative comment, so I'm not having a big old rant about what happened to the What I Eat in a Day video. It was a real eye-opener. I'm glad that I did it, because actually I'm now very consciously going to wait for a day when I am struggling, when I'm doing I could just gnaw through a bag of cheese crackers, I could gnaw through a bag of knickknacks, I could gnaw through anything and nothing would satisfy. I'm going to wait for one of those days and then do the one that I did wasn't dishonest. I don't want to give an impression that it wasn't, but it's not a day when I was struggling. So maybe it was the wrong one to start with, but it was the only way to learn is to sort of try. And that's what I did with that. So the What I Eat in a Day video, if you want to go and see it, it's over on my Instagram. I'm at Emma Guns. But it was an interesting experience, and I will do more, and I will be more thoughtful about, not more thoughtful. I will, if I'm having a day when I'm struggling, I will document it honestly, and I won't edit it. I won't hold back from sharing the content. I will stand in front of the fridge and say, I'm standing here because I've just got the impulse to eat. I don't know what I'm going to eat, but I want to eat all of that. But because you're watching, I'm probably not. But if you weren't, I might actually eat that. I don't know how it will look, but I definitely saw the process of What I Eat in a Day through a completely new lens, having done it. And it's very distorted. And if I have learned anything from that, it's that if I do it again, or when I do it again, because I will, it will be a completely different tone. And I will be, even though I was transparent and honest the first time, I did not eat anything outside of what I showed you. This one, that was a day when I was not struggling, but I will be more mindful to share a day when perhaps it is more of a challenge to eat in the way that I ideally would like to, because I think that's important to show too. And I won't do it through snotty tears or anything like that, which can sometimes be the way that you share honest content. I don't know if you've seen that online, that kind of thing. Again, I see it, I don't like it, I don't comment anything negatively. So that's my tuppence worth for this week's episode of Bullet Points. If you watch the What I Eat in a Day, I'd be really interested to know your thoughts. If you have any thoughts about the next one I do, or if you have any thoughts about any of the content, actually, I would really like to hear from you. Funnily enough, I spoke to my friend Ali on the phone last night, and she actually said to me, I know you're going to be worrying about that What I Eat in a Day video, but trust me, I think it was really well done. And your caption kind of covered off what I knew would be worrying you. But I was saying to her, what's really funny is that I posted a series of fashion content videos recently, and they've done so much better than a lot of my beauty content. And so I'm going to mix it up. There's going to be beauty, there's going to be fashion, and there's going to be some more lifestyle stuff. If you've been following me on Instagram and my stories, you would have seen that I've been sharing links to the workouts that I do every day. That's something I have sort of held back from doing, but I've decided to be a little bit more open and share a bit more. So if you like all of that stuff, or if there's anything that you would like me to do in more detail, then please do let me know. And what's happening today is that after yesterday's post, where I made Matthew McConaughey's viral tuna salad, today, having left it in the fridge for 24 hours, today is the day that I'm going to have it for lunch. So if you haven't followed me yet, go and follow me, because you'll be able to watch those videos plus the fashion content. But if you are following me and you want to know what it's like, then I will be posting a video on that at some point later. Well, it'll be live actually by the time this episode comes out, because I'm a little bit ahead of my schedule finally. Finally, I'm a little bit ahead. So that's everything. I'd be really interested to hear what you think, because I know that you're very thoughtful and very considered, and I know that you will have some quite brilliant advice for me. So office@emmaguns.com, or DM me on Instagram, or comment on the video below if that's where you're watching, I'm getting used to that. Or please don't forget to subscribe to my Substack, because I'll be doing a little post about my what I eat in a day, sort of a shorter version of what we've just talked about here, with a link to it, just to kind of get some feedback over there. But the Substack does seem to be where more people comment and sort of engage. So if you have thoughts and feelings about the show, please, and you sort of think, oh, I don't really fancy sending an email, and the DM seems too direct, then a comment on my Substack where other people can see it and will maybe chime in might be the best place. But all of those links will be in the show notes. But thank you so much for joining me. I will see you on the next one.